Motorsport 411 presents
all the four- and two-wheeled action.
Motorsport 411 with Sean Cardovillis.
Welcome to Motorsport 411, your home for all your four- and two-wheel action in Africa. In this first episode of 2023, we have a special roundup of the Dakar Rally. We speak to Ahmed Alkuwari, who completed his first Dakar in the T3 prototype class. We catch up with Ross Branch from Botswana, who had a very successful run in the motorcycle class, winning 2 stages. And we get the experiences of Colin, the voice of rally, who was in Saudi Arabia for his first ever Dakar experience. He also previews the 2023 World Rally Championship that begins this week in Monte Carlo.
All the four- and two-wheeled action. Motorsport 411.
Welcome to the show. So the 2023 Dakar Rally is done and dusted. The weather conditions and the length of the route were the main features this year. Nasser Al-Attiyah won his 5th event, finishing comfortably ahead of Sebastian Loeb, who set a new record of 6 stage victories in a row. Here's the reaction of Al-Attiyah at the end of the event.
It was really tough Dakar for everybody, but okay, we manage and we to win again, in row. It's really it's amazing, to defend our title. I am happy, to win 5 times. Matthew 4 times now, and sorry, Matthew, huh?
So that's 5 times winner Nasser Al-Attiyah. In the motorcycle category, it was Kevin Benavides from Argentina who beat Toby Price by just 43 seconds.
Big emotion. I work a lot for this, and also, for all the people that is with me, my family, my girlfriend, my friends, all the team that also always support to me, and of course also Paulo. He's always looking at me, and I think thank you for all the person that they stay with me and they believe also in me.
In the lightweight prototype T3 class, Ahmed Alkuwari finished his first Dakar Rally after 3 attempts. He was navigated by Manuel Lucchese, and their vehicle was a Yamaha 1000R, a turbo prototype with the X-Ray team supported by Yamaha. Alkuwari spoke exclusively to Motorsport 411.
We had a good Dakar. The first week was quite difficult, very physical. The second week was showed us another set of challenges. One challenge that I did not foresee this year actually is the situation in the bivouacs because of the cold and the rain. The bivouacs didn't offer much rest for the drivers and the teams. So alhamdulillah, but we managed to get through all of that. At times it seemed impossible, but we did, and we're very lucky to be at the finish of Dakar, and it was a lovely time. I appreciate this Dakar more than any of the others I've ever done. It was definitely the most difficult and the most varied terrain, and even though some stages showed to be short in distance, but they were very long for us as drivers since the average speeds were quite low. In the end, we managed that another top 10, 7th place in the last stage. I just wanted to show that we have some speed, that we're holding back to achieve the finish. And it was a lovely ceremony, and I got finally my finisher's medal of Dakar after 3 failed attempts. So I'm very, very happy about that.
That's Ahmed Alkuwari speaking exclusively to Motorsport 411. Now, going back to the motorcycle category, Ross Branch from Botswana won 2 stages. Ross, thank you so much for speaking to us on Motorsport 411. Now, congratulations. 2 stage wins in the Dakar. I'm sure you must be thrilled despite the other issues you had.
Hey guys, thanks so much for having me on the show yet again, and a very happy new year to you. And I'm really happy with the stage wins. Obviously, it wasn't the overall and the final result that we're looking for, but super happy with the stage wins and showing that I've still got the speed.
Now, you did have an issue on one of the days that really cost you a lot of time. Just explain what happened.
Yeah, we had an issue on 2 days, on stage 4 and stage 5, and it was a bit unlucky. We had some fuel issues. We ran out of fuel on both days. Nobody's fault at all. It wasn't. No one was to blame. It was just an unfortunate malfunction of one of the injectors on the bike. So yeah, I ran out of fuel at kilometer 178, and the refuel was at kilometer 250. So yeah, it was just really unlucky. But yeah, like I say, I'm in one piece, and yeah, we lost the Dakar that day for sure, because there's no way that you can come back from a 6.5 hour deficit. So yeah, it was very unlucky, but yeah, that's rally racing, and we just have to pick ourselves up, dust ourselves off, and carry on.
Now, we were really fortunate to follow you every day. There was the daily highlights, and there was a very touching scene. There was a part where you were helping another biker. Can you give us more details regarding that?
Yeah, I think Dakar is, we go there to race, we go there to win, definitely. But when something like that happens, and a buddy, like a guy that you know, and somebody that stops next to you in needs help, it's I had to help him. I really wanted to help him and try and get at least one of us back on the road, and we couldn't. I was in such a bad situation. I couldn't get to the refuel, and he had a good chance of getting to the refuel after we tried to fix his bike. So yeah, just gave it all we could, and we actually, funny enough, finished on that day pretty close to each other. So
it was a very different Dakar. First of all, the distances were insane. The overall distance of the Dakar was much more, I think nearly double of last year. And then also the weather conditions were very, very different this time, huh?
Yeah, definitely. It was the hardest Dakar. Well, definitely the hardest rally I've ever done in my life, in my racing career. Just because of the distances, the rally was so long. The riding wasn't so technical. It was just big distances, and which means that you start early. So on average, I was waking up at 2:30 in the morning and getting on the liaison at 3:30, 4 o'clock. So it was really long days and long time on the saddle. So it was, really hard. But it was good. It was a completely different Dakar. I think out of the 15 days of racing, we had 13 days of rain and really bad weather. So it also made it interesting, and obviously played a big part in the performance of the bike. So it was very different, but it was the same for everybody, and everybody had the same kind of struggles. And we had to prepare in a different way for sure each day. But it was. I think that's the cool thing about Dakar, is that it changes all the time. It's never the same thing, so you never know what to expect. You've just got to be the best prepared you can.
Yeah, it was very unusual to see the rain and the havoc that it caused. It really changed the texture of the sand, it almost turning it into concrete or cement. How difficult was it negotiating the dunes with that much water?
Yeah, it was tough. Like I said, it was definitely the toughest one this year because of all that kind of stuff. But I think it was just the unexpected, that was really difficult, because you would be riding along and the sand dunes were quite easy, and the texture of the sand was like the same throughout. And then all of a sudden it would get super soft, and you'd go over the handlebars every 5 seconds, and then it would get super hard, and it was really hard to read the dunes and to try and prepare. And obviously the speed that you ride the dunes, that is completely different for the different kinds of dunes. For soft dunes, you want to go carry a bit more speed in, and for harder dunes, you want to be a little bit slower so you don't jump off the end of them. So it was really difficult to try and keep your head in the game and make sure that you don't make stupid mistakes, which I did on day one. But it is what it is, and it was a tough one.
How difficult was it in the bivouacs? Because a lot of them were flooded or had issues due to the rain.
Yeah, it was chaos. I think the whole rally, I must say congratulations to all the organizers, because they did a fantastic job just dealing with situations as they happened. And the bivouacs were flooded and slippery, and everything was wet, and it was difficult to move around in the bivouac. So pretty much as I got there, normally I'd go and talk to people and move around a little bit and just enjoy the Dakar vibe. But no, not many people were out this time, just because of the cold and the wet that it was in the bivouacs. But they cancelled the stage, and the organizers made a good decision to cancel that stage because of safety for us. And it was a rally that was chucked on its head from the weather, that's for sure.
Now, it was really unpredictable in the bikes. We saw earlier on 2 favorites crashing out. But for you, 2 stage wins, it was absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think this rally claimed a lot of the fast guys and the elite riders for sure. There was a lot of guys that were taken away in a helicopter. I'm glad that everybody is sort of okay. Everybody's walking and pretty much in one piece, which is good to see, because you never like to see your friends out there get hurt. But yeah, then the stage wins was I really needed it. I needed it for the confidence and just for this year going into the next couple of rounds of the World Championship. I've got some wins under my belt. It helps with the confidence a lot, and it also shows that I've still got the speed to win some races, which was important for me and my mind game. So yeah, I was really happy, and I was quite content with 2 stage wins. A lot of people were pushing and saying they wanted the third one, and obviously I go there to the start line to race and to win, but I didn't want to take too many risks. The guys are going so fast, and they had such a big race going up at the front that they were taking all the risks that they could to win. So I couldn't take those risks. I wasn't in a position to do that. So yeah, I'm really happy with 2 stage wins and with the way that Dakar went. Obviously the 2 bad days was not good for us, but all in all, we've got a bike now that can win, and the team is ready. We learnt a lot this rally on what could go wrong with wet weather. So yeah, all in all, I think it was really good for me.
Ross, just tell us about Hero Motorsport and the support you're getting, the bike. How was the experience for you?
It was amazing. They're such a good team, and it's like a family, being a family at the races. And I think it has to be like that for 15, 16 days. Those are the closest people to you. So they're really, really amazing. There was no pressure from their side at all. And obviously when I won the stage for them, they were over the moon, and then the second stage I won, they were just like flabbergasted. So it was really cool for them, and it was really cool for me, and obviously everybody that supports me was really happy. So I think all in all, it was a good way to come back from the bad days.
There was a big presence for Africa. We saw not only in the bikes, also in the cars, some of the other categories as well, particularly South Africa. And we're seeing that rally rate is really booming from that part of the world.
Definitely. I think there was over 40 of us Southern Africans there this year. And that's awesome. The first year I went, there was only 3 or 4 of us. And now we're up to 40, 45. So it was really good to see, and I think we finally, as Southern Africans, are getting hold of this rally raid kind of racing. And if we could get a couple more guys and more people to go and ride, it'll be awesome for us. But it's a good starting point, and I think we can get some more rallies going in Southern Africa, and it'll be a big boost for us. And I think us as Southern Africans have what it takes to be good at rallies. So yeah, there's no reason we shouldn't be.
Now, the Dakar, this is the first year it's part of the World Rally Raid Championship, the W2RC, if I got that right. And stage wins also counting their points awarded for stage wins. How much of a boost is it having a global championship?
It's amazing. It just also helps with the motivation so much, because if it's a once-off race, there would be not much motivation to carry on to finish the race if you're so far back and lost so much time. So, we're all racing to win, and everybody wants to win. So when you lose so much time, it's really hard to find the motivation to keep on going and to keep on trucking until the end. So with it being a world championship, it played on my mind a lot. I could have thrown in the towel and just left with 0 points, but it would ruin the whole year. So at least now with some stage wins, I get a couple of extra points, and then obviously with finishing 16th in the class, it helped a lot, and I'm glad I stuck it out and glad I got to the finish line. And hopefully it'll help a lot with the up and coming races, so I can stay in the championship and not throw it all away the first round.
Now, a word about the competition at the top. It was really tight going into the final day, and in the end, Kevin Benavides winning it for Argentina. Just a quick word about those top riders. It was really stiff, the competition, huh?
Yeah, this year was crazy. Everybody at the top is going so fast, and everybody is so strong. It's like a real flat-out sprint nowadays. The Dakar is not what it used to be, where it was, planning and strategy. Now you have to go as fast as you can for as long as you can, and it's definitely the fastest guys are winning now. It's not anymore anything else. So yeah, we knew it was going to be tight, and obviously with the opening bonus, it makes the racing even tighter. So it was excellent to witness it, but I would have way rather have been a part of it and battling for that podium position for sure. But the guys are going really fast, and I'm proud to be a part of one of those guys and in that group of riders at the moment. It's really special. But we just need to change one or two small things, and then hopefully next year we can be in that fight until the very end.
Now, it's incredible what's happening and how serious the Dakar is being taken. We're seeing in the cars, of course, Audi with the electric vehicles, but we're also seeing the rise of other countries like China. We're seeing from you guys, India. Just a quick word about the bikes and the technology. How close, or do you feel you're on a par with the regular manufacturers? You got Gas, KTM, Husqvarna, Honda. How close do you feel the technology is on your bike compared to the others?
I think we're there. We've done a lot of changes this past year because of the new rules that are coming into Dakar and the speed limits and everything. We've had to make changes to our bikes. And we definitely, as such a small team, I'm really proud and privileged to be on that team. And I think they've got exactly what the other manufacturers have on their bike. We're all on a par at the moment. And even speed-wise, all the bikes are pretty much even. So it makes it really interesting, and it definitely takes the race down to the wire. Obviously, with the KTM group of Husqvarna and Gas and KTM, they've got lots of riders. So for the racing and for the overall manufacturers, it's a bit easier for them. But us as a small team with 4 riders, we're definitely giving it to them and giving it our best shot. I think our bikes are now in a position where we can focus on winning the Dakar next year, and I really think that we're at that point.
All right, and finally, Ross, in terms of your plans for this year, just tell us what's next.
Yeah, we've got a short break. Actually, we've only got a 3-week break, and then I head off to Abu Dhabi for the Abu Dhabi Desert Challenge. It's round 2 of the World Championship. And from there, we've got another 3-week break, and then we go to Mexico for the Sonora Rally. That'll be round 3. And then we have a bit of a summer break. And then we go to Argentina for round 4, and then Morocco round 5, and then back to Dakar. So it's going to be a jam-packed year, but I'm really excited, and hopefully I can do a couple of local races in Botswana and South Africa and Southern Africa, maybe a couple of Zim, and hopefully come up to you guys sometime and do some racing back in Kenya. It'll be awesome, but we'll just have to see how it goes.
Ross, on behalf of Motorsport 411, we congratulate you. It was a brilliant performance in Saudi Arabia. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll keep in touch with you throughout 2023.
Thank you guys so much for having me, and congratulations on the show yet again, and I will definitely talk to you throughout the year this year.
That's Ross Branch from Botswana, who won 2 stages in the 2023 Dakar Rally. We'll be back.
All the 4- and 2-wheeled action.
Motorsport 411.
So welcome back. Now our roundup of the 2023 Dakar Rally continues. Colin Clark is known as the voice of rally and provides updates for Dirtfish. Colin, thank you so much for speaking to us on Motorsport 411. Your first ever Dakar Rally. Just tell us about your experience.
Yeah, it's something I've been wanting to do for a very long time, Sean. You see it every year, and it almost falls at the perfect time, doesn't it? We've had 6 weeks, 7 weeks since the last rally in the WRC. We're all looking forward to Monte Carlo, and then we've got 2 weeks of the Dakar. And for the past 15 years, I've been trying to work out a way to get there. And this year it all just came together. And I went out. I was invited out very kindly by the organisers, the ASO. And off I went, a little bit green, a little bit naive, quite unprepared. But I had the most fantastic time. It was incredible. We in the weeks leading up to the flight that took us out there was a lot of talk about tents and sleeping bags and camping equipment, and I just ignored it all, thinking that can't possibly be for me. I'm 53 years old. I don't do camping. How wrong did I get that? It was all about camping. It was all about living the Dakar experience, and the whole thing was just quite incredible. From the scale of it is really what hits you first. The first, if you like, bivouac, we call it a service park, and it took me a long time to get used to calling it a bivouac. But the first one was just north of a place called Yambu, and genuinely it stopped me in my tracks, Sean. At 2.5 100,000 people. It was like a little town that had just sprung up by the side of the Red Sea. And it was phenomenal. The whole thing, the scale of it, the operation, everything was just quite phenomenal. I loved just about every second of it.
I think what people love about Rally Raid and the Dakar in particular is that it's an equalizer. You got, huge global superstars like Sebastian Loeb, and just incredible to see photos of him sleeping in a normal tent like everybody else.
Yeah, absolutely. It really does. Okay, normally those boys would have motorhomes, but they're not big fancy motorhomes. They're just your normal motorhomes. But when they have what they call the marathon stages are loop stages. They go out from point A to point B, and then the next day they return on a separate track from point B back to point A. And they're not allowed any outside help. So they're not allowed motorhomes, they're not allowed mechanics, engineers, anything like that with them. So the driver, co-driver are on their own. And they get to point B, they get to the bivouac, which is the marathon bivouac. And it's, I stood in a queue for an hour for food. Sebastian Loeb turned up and I thought, this will be interesting. Is he actually going to go to the back of the queue? Absolutely he did. He went to the back of the queue and he waited with everyone else for an hour to get his dinner that evening. So yeah, it is an equalizer, and it's an equalizer in terms of performance as well. They have interesting regulations on the Dakar that allows manufacturers like Audi to come and test their technologies, to come and prove their new technologies. They have what they call an EOT calculation. It's an incredibly complex calculation that very clever people at the FIA have come up with, but it's equalization of technologies. So it allows diesel four-wheel drives, petrol four-wheel drives, hybrid cars, electric cars. It allows them to compete on what should be, if the EOT calculation works, it should be a level footing. So it penalises some and it gives a little bit of leeway to others to try and balance everything out. And for me, it's fantastic. And it's potentially the way forward for rallying. I think we have to get back to a point in rallying where we allow manufacturers to demonstrate their own technologies, their own innovations, their own, if you like, to showcase their wares, rather than as we've got in the WRC just now. We've got hybrid technology, but it's someone else's technology, and everyone else has got the same technology. We have to allow the manufacturers the chance to demonstrate what they can do. And this equalization of technology, it allows, championships like Dakar or like Rally Raid to do that, and for everyone to have a chance. Everyone's got a chance. And that, for me, is the really exciting thing about Rally Raid. And what's incredibly exciting is it's now a world championship. It's first year last year, second year this year, and growing in strength, growing in numbers, growing in reach. It's going to Mexico this year, to Argentina, to Abu Dhabi, to obviously to Dakar, and there's a fifth one which just eludes me just now. But yeah, it's an interesting format, and I like it a lot.
Now, big change this year. Well, a big factor this year was the weather. It absolutely chucked it down in the desert. How was that experience for you?
Oh, Sean, as I say, I was quite underprepared for the camping thing. I did go with all the correct gear in the end because, thank goodness, the shops are open on Boxing Day here. I flew out on the 27th of December and made a mad dash to the local camping store on the 26th. The first week it was fine. The weather was, we were, for all the pre-event checks and the build-up and the scrutineering and the prologue, we were on the Red Sea, and it was very, very pleasant. We then headed up towards Alula and then into Hail, and goodness me, the heavens just opened up. It was different. You'll have seen the footage, I'm sure, of cars trying to make their way through the wadis that were just raging torrents of water, mud that was just up to your knees, and in the bivouac in particular in Hail, it was absolutely just a mud bath. And it was challenging. It was really, really challenging. And when you go on a Dakar, I talk about the scale of the number of competitors, the size of the bivouac, the lengths and the distances that are covered. It's incredible. On the Friday, the first Friday, I think, of the event, they were coming into Riyadh, and the organisers reorganised maybe 25% of the route at 3-4 hours notice, which, when you've got such an enormous undertaking and operation, is just incredible. So they reorganised it. We went into Riyadh, and you've never seen rain like it. It absolutely battered it down. Now, bear in mind, the drivers, the riders, the support crews, who came through the stage. They'd done a 450 kilometre stage. They'd driven 100 kilometres to get to the stage. The liaison was then 420 kilometres from the stage back to Riyadh in the dark, in the pouring rain, on flooded motorways. And they were coming in all night. And it's, for me, these guys then they get a couple hours sleep, maybe if they're lucky, they dry out, and then they head off to do it all again the next morning. It is just the most incredible challenge. And the weather added to it. The drivers, the riders, the teams asked for a more challenging route this year. They said last year's Dakar was a little bit too simple, a little bit too straightforward. They asked for a more challenging route. And David Casteras, who's the boss of the championship, he gave them a challenging route. Add to that the unexpected challenging weather, and it was a proper Dakar challenge. Incredible stuff, really incredible stuff to see. What I found incredible was to see the desert and the hills, which are normally barren and brown, green with grass, green with shrubs. It was quite some sight.
Now, one of the beauties about the Dakar is, and unfortunately, we saw death of a spectator, but is how close the spectators can get to the drivers and all that. When you look at the typical World Rally Championship, it's quite difficult to get access to the teams, to the drivers and all that. How refreshing was that for you?
No, I wouldn't use the word refreshing, Sean. I really wouldn't. It was, as you mentioned, there was one spectator that was killed. I found it quite concerning. I really did. It's a strange thing, the Dakar. The bivouac is completely sealed off. The security around the bivouac is incredible. Unless you've got a wristband with a digital chip in it, you will not get into the bivouac. So you've got 2,500 competitors. You've got 500 cars, trucks, buggies. You've got a whole load of bikes in there, a whole load of servicing going on, and not a single spectator. So the spectators then gravitate out towards the stages. Now, as is the way with any sort of rallying, spectators find out where these stages are. And it wasn't pre-published. There was some idea of roughly where they were going, but the exact routes are always kept secret until the very last minute. The FIA have got involved in cross-country rallying. I think one of the things they will have to look at is spectator safety. I was genuinely concerned at one point that I went into with cars going everywhere. We're in the dunes, local cars. Yes, they know how to drive in the dunes. Cars going everywhere. I could hear Nasser on the start line, and there were people going in the wrong direction, in their 4x4s, up across blind crests in the wrong way. There were kids running around. The whole thing at that point, and I'm only talking about that one point, scared me, genuinely scared me. I thought, this is not really what we want to see. Now, it doesn't happen often, and it's not part of the course, that is for sure. But, that was the stage where sadly that gentleman lost his life just a couple more kilometres on from where I was. And at the time I thought we need something just a little bit more, a little more control at certain sections. You can't obviously marshal 450 kilometres of stages, but spectators can't get into 450 kilometres. The spectators in that stage were in the first 5 or 6 kilometres, and that was it. So, no, I think that's something that needs to be looked at. It is great. You can see them. You can see them on the road sections. You can go in across the desert, but there are issues, I think, that maybe need to be addressed around maybe not so much spectator safety, but spectator education, educating the spectators as to what to do, where to go. These are people, particularly out in the desert, who know the desert. They know how to drive in the dunes. They know how not to get stuck. But they don't necessarily know, A, just how fast these cars are upon them, and B, the fact that, if they are coming that quick, one momentary lapse in concentration and there's a car there, it's on top of you. So, I think it might be just a matter of education more than perhaps marshalling, but there is definitely work to do in that area.
Were you surprised with the speed of the stages? Well, how fast these guys were going? There was a speed limit on the bikes and the cars. I think it was 160 kilometers an hour. But were you surprised at how fast they were going?
It was, Sean, and it was one of the fastest Dakars I think we've seen in a long time. Now, what's happened with this equalization of technology, balance of performance, BOP, that's the other term that you'll hear thrown around, is that they have actually brought the power of the cars down. And as you rightly say, they've restricted them. But what that means is our drivers are pushing flat out more often than perhaps they were in the past. And in the first day or two, I could see it. When you're driving in dunes, it doesn't really matter what you can see beyond the dune. there's always a degree of caution needed as you approach the crest of the dune, because you just don't know what's beyond that crest. You don't know whether it's a vertical drop. You don't know what it is, So you always, or in the past, you've always put the car slightly sideways, a bit of brake just to give yourself a little bit of perhaps thinking time, and then off you go. What we saw on this Dakar was a whole load more flat out over the dunes, a whole load more jumping. And, Carlos Sainz's one that ended his rally was a mistake, and an enormous mistake. He should never have been flat out over the top of that crest. But that's what we saw all rally. We saw drivers pushing harder, taking more jumps, using less of the brake, being less cautious than we've seen in the past. And that's really why we saw Peter Hansel, why we saw Sainz, and we saw a number of other drivers falling out of the rally, because they were damaging their cars beyond repair, but also they were damaging driver and co-driver beyond repair. And this is what we've got to now. And I was speaking to Malcolm Wilson about it, because they're planning a T1 Plus, which is the top category, if you like, the WRC of cross-country rallying, T1 Plus car for next year. And he said one of the things we are going to have to concentrate on is making the cockpit as comfortable as possible, because the cars are as capable as they can be. So how do we get a bit more performance? Well, over 4, 5, 6 hours, if we've got comfortable crew in the car for, if we can say they're comfortable for the last 2 or 3 hours, whereas in the past they've been enduring it for the last 2 or 3 hours, if we can make them comfortable, we will get better performances out of our crew. So he went away from his little fact-finding mission very much with that in mind. And I agree with that. We're at the point now where it's the crews that break and not the cars. And that's worrying. That's really quite worrying.
Will you be back next year?
Hey. Well, do you know what I was told? I was told by everyone that you never do one Dakar. You either don't do the Dakar or you do it multiple times. I would love to go back next year. I really would, even with the camping. Listen, I cheated a little bit, Sean. I did have, I was away for 22 nights. I had, I think it was 6 nights in hotels. In Hyle, where it was a mud bath and pouring down with rain, I couldn't face it. And there was a hotel 5 minutes from the bivouac, so off I went. But I would go back for sure, because I would like to do it a little differently. I don't think I got the most out of my Dakar experience because I was so green, so naive about certain things. I think I would be way better prepared if I went back to cover it next year. I could do an awful lot more, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it immensely. But I'm certain I could enjoy it a whole load more on the second trip. So yeah, put my name down, Sean. I'm off.
All right. Just finally, a quick word about Nasser Al-Attiyah, Sebastian Loeb, with those 6 stages in a row. And then in the bikes, how close it was on the final day.
Oh, listen, Nasser Al-Attiyah is a legend. He's an absolute legend of Dakar. 5 wins on the Dakar. Peter Hansel's the only man who's won more on in the cars. The great Ari Vatanen won it 4 times. The greatest driver of all time, Sebastian Loeb, is yet to win it 3 times second. That puts Nasser's performance into perspective. He is a world-class, the best, in fact, cross-country driver in the world just now. And he's the same age as me, I think. He's 52, I believe. I think that's more or less optimal. What I think with Carlos Sainz at 60, 61, I think that's on the cusp. I really do. I think that's about, because of the stresses I talked about earlier, 60, 61, 62, that's maybe, even with the talent and the experience, maybe a little bit too old. But Nasser is at the peak of his performance, and he's a thinking driver, and he always has been. He's not the quickest driver on the stage sections, and we see that. When we're on the tracks, he will lose time, but he doesn't panic. He knows how to think his way through a rally raid. He has got tremendous rally raid craft. 10 minutes down on the first stage, any signs of panic? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Didn't care. And by the end of stage 6, 5 or 6, he had an hour and 20 minutes of a lead. He is the world's best and deserves all the plaudits he gets. I think he's a super guy. He's great for the sport. The bikes that you mentioned, oh my goodness me, Toby Price and Kevin Benavides, I think that's how you say his surname, the Argentinian rider. Just the most sensational competition. I mean, I don't cover bikes, but I couldn't help but be drawn to the competition. in the final stage with under 100 kilometres to go, having competed for 4,300 kilometres, they were tied on time. Their times were identical. How is that possible? How is that possible when you see the myriad of different conditions that the drivers had to face, the different decisions and choices they had to make through the stages? Those two boys were tied on time. Okay, the last 100 kilometres went Kevin's way, and he took a great win. And Toby Price, you cannot imagine how he felt at that stop line. So close, leading the event, albeit by 12 seconds, going into that stage, tied for times inside the last 100 kilometres and then losing it in that last section. Toby Price has won it twice before, but he'd have loved to have won it again. We may see Price back next year. He's moving towards cars. That's his stated ambition for the future. But Kevin Benavides did a great job out there, and thoroughly deserved his victory. It was absolutely fascinating watching the bikers, and the level of skill there, the level of commitment, the level of determination of all of those bikers is just, it has to be seen to be believed. They put in superhuman performances. They're for me, the cars, the buggies, they're great. I love them, love watching them. I love the characters, but up on the top of the pedestal for me are the bikers. They do the most sensational job. It's something that really I watch and I admire greatly.
Colin, finally, it's amazing how time flies. We're already starting the 2023 World Rally Championship season. Monte Carlo on this week, and the big story, of course, is Oid Tanak moving to M Sport Ford. There's been a lot of talk about him this week. It looks interesting on paper. Can Ford deliver? Have they got the resources compared to the full factory teams of Hyundai and Toyota? How do you see this unfolding?
Yeah, listen, they don't have the resources. That's the absolute obvious answer. They do not have the resources that Toyota and Hyundai have. And we can see that quite clearly. And Malcolm Wilson has said, look, we are putting all of our efforts this year into delivering the driver's title to Tanak. They don't have 3 cars. They will have 2 cars on most rounds. So the manufacturer's title, that is not their priority. In fact, they know that that's not going to happen. What does that mean? Well, do you know what? To win a title, you have to have good wingmen who can help you out, and deliver you extra points. Perhaps more pertinently, can take points off the opposition when you're having a bad rally. Now, you've got young Pierre-Louis Loubet there, who I was enormously impressed by last year. He came on in leaps and bounds. He had a nightmare of a year in the Hyundai. He got into the Puma last year. He won stages. He led a rally. Where was it he was leading? Let me think. He was leading in Greece at the end of day one, wasn't he? So, yeah, he has the potential to continue developing and to be that wingman that Tanak needs. But I suspect Tanak will have to do it on his own this year. And he is perfectly capable of that. He really is. He will need a little bit of luck. He is more determined. He's got more fire in his belly than I think I've ever seen. And, when you have a fired up Oid Tanak, you take a step or two back. You're careful what you say to him when you ask him questions. He is a frightening competitor when he's fired up. And I genuinely believe that Tanak will be a challenger this year. I think it's going to be very hard to beat Toyota. Toyota are an incredible team. They've got an amazing lineup with Robin Pera there, obviously defending his title. We'll have to see how Elvin Evans comes on this year. And then, that third car between Takamoto-san and Sebastian Ogier, it's a strong lineup. It really is. They'll be difficult to beat. Thierry Neuville, yes, he's got a good chance. But again, we talk about wingmen. Let's see how Esa-Pekka Lappi gets on at Hyundai. I like Esa-Pekka Lappi. I've always liked him. I like his speed. I like his honesty. For me, he was one of those 5, 6, 7 years ago, maybe a few more years ago. He was a real prospect. And we've never quite seen him hit the heights, unfortunately, Esa-Pekka Lappi. But is he a good number 2? Quite possibly. He may be that good number 2, that wingman that Thierry Neuville needs. But again, whoever wins the title this year, if you're going to wrestle the title from Toyota, be it, Thierry Neuville or Oid Tanak, you are going to need things to go your way. A little bit of luck occasionally. Whoever gets the rub of the green, I think, will be the one battling against the Toyotas. For me, Toyota are the team to watch this year once again, but Hyundai, a rejuvenated Hyundai with the new team boss, with a slightly new driver lineup. Might they surprise us all? Well, it's possible. It's very, very possible. But my money still on Hyundai. Still on Toyota. But watch out for Ott Tanak. Watch out for Ott Tanak. He could do sensational things. Maybe not here in Monte Carlo. You know, a fourth, maybe fifth place would be a good result. A podium would be a great result. He's never got on well with Monte Carlo. So let's see what happens, Sean. But you know, I'm looking forward to the year. 3 teams, 3 winning drivers. You know, what more could we ask for? It really is setting itself up to be a great year.
Yeah, a quick word, first of all, about Kalahari Ferrari. He says he's still hungry for the title. And then secondly, a lot of talk about the Rally 2 category, the WRC 2 category. A lot more entries in there. In fact, it looks like the competition could be even stiffer than the main category.
Yeah, and that's very often the way with Rally 2. You know, I don't think it'll be... you know, what have we got in the main category? We've got, at the start of the year, realistically, 4 drivers who will want to be drivers champion at the end of this year. We've got Thierry Neuville in Hyundai, and I think he's the only one. I don't think that Esa-Pekka Lappi will be looking to win the title in Hyundai. When we go to Toyota, you've clearly got Robin Pera, and you've got Elvin Evans, who will also be looking at, you know, putting things right after a very disappointing year last year. And then we go to M Sport, and you've got Ott Tanak, 4 drivers. You know, yes, we go to WRC2, and you might say there are 5 or 6 drivers. So there are more drivers in WRC2 that will keep things interesting, for sure. It is a little disappointing where we're at just now. We go to Monte Carlo, the most prestigious event of the year, and it's Rally 1 cars. We've only got, I think it's 8 full-time drivers. Well, 9, because you can include Takamoto, can't you, as a full-time driver, I guess. So, no, it's 8, I think. It is 8 full-time drivers on the start list. I'm not sure, 8 or 9, whatever it is. It's a little disappointing. But that's where we're at just now with these regulations, and there's not much we can do about that. But yeah, WRC2 is going to be exciting. You know, Oliver Solberg, there to prove himself. Gus Greensmith, there to prove himself. Andreas Mikkelsen, a man who perhaps feels hard done by Hyundai. He was waiting, our understanding is he was waiting for that contract to be sent through to him, and it never happened. And he's on the phone saying, come on, guys, what's happening here? Silence. So, you know, you've got him who's clearly fired up, wants to do a job, and many others in that category who will be worth watching for sure. So, yeah, it'll be great. It'll be entertaining. If things get a little bit boring in the top class, for sure, we can just, you know, turn our attention to WRC2 and we will be entertained. That is for sure.
There is snow where you are in the UK. The conditions always a factor in Monte Carlo, between the ice, little bit of snow and the tarmac. Tire choice is going to be critical. We've seen some big crashes in the last few years, notably Ott Tanak with that massive crash. You know, conditions will be key.
Conditions are always key in the Monte, Sean. You're absolutely right. Now, you know, don't forget the Monte this year is 100% based out of Monaco. So we're in the Alpes Maritimes, which are those mountains just to the north of Monaco and Monte Carlo. Now, those mountains rise to an impressive height, 2,000. I think the Col de Turini is round about 2,600 meters. But we are that little bit further south, and you know, I don't know what it was now, maybe 12, 14 years ago. We moved north up towards Valence for a couple of years, and then Gap for quite a number of years, really searching for the winter conditions, because we'd had quite a few Monte Carlo rallies without the winter conditions. And without the winter conditions, you know, it can be a little bit processional. I know that's maybe sacrilege when you're talking about the Monte Carlo, but it can be a little bit processional. Dry tarmac, well, it's dry tarmac, isn't it? But yeah, I think we've seen a bit of snow on the recce. The forecast looks, you know, interesting for the week. We're not going to see snowbanks. We're not going to see mountains of snow like we have occasionally seen in the past. But that's not what's needed. What you need are changeable conditions where, as you say, you know, the first stage might have 3 or 4 or 5 kilometers of really icy conditions. Decisions then to be made on tyre choice, on tyre strategy, on how you approach it. And that's what we want with Monte Carlo. It's that indecision, that strategy, that choice of tyres, that choice of perhaps, you know, how you approach the stage. You know, and it doesn't have to be a full covering of snow, a full covering of ice. It's just the odd stage where it might be wet, it might be icy, it might be snowy, just for a few kilometers. And then we see strategy coming into play. And that is what makes Monte Carlo really, really interesting.
Colin Clark, the voice of rally. We really appreciate you talking to us on Motorsport 411. Thank you so much, and we'll be keeping in touch with you throughout 2023.
It's been a joy, Sean, as always. Thanks very much. And we're all off to enjoy the Monte.
We'll be back.
Motorsports 411 with Sean Cardovillis.
So that's it for Motorsport 411 this week. Our thanks once again to Ahmed Alkuwari, Ross Branch and Colin Clark. Our thanks as always to Big City Studio. I'm Sean Cardovillis. See you next week.